Hi, everyone. This is Jackie Tomlin, and welcome to another episode of When Spirit Speaks podcast. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for your feedback, your thoughts, opinions, and ideas. Greatly appreciated. If you're seeking to contact me, it is JackieTomlin.com. You can contact me via email, text, or call. It is 804-731-2302. So today's episode is going to be a little bit different. The questions that I've been asked by most of you all of my life, we're going to address some of those, which is what it's like to give a reading, what happens on my end, when did I know, did my parents know, things of that nature. Okay, so we're going to dive right in, and we're going to start with the lineage. Okay, there are psychic abilities and psychics in my family. I'm often asked this, and how far does it go back? My grandmother, I have two, like everyone, I have two grandmothers, one that raised me, one that did not. The one that did not raise me had many psychic abilities. Okay, this was on my mother's side. The abilities come from my mother's side, but no, on my mother's side, it was both sides of her family. Okay, her mom and her dad's side. She has an Italian maiden name. So it starts with her mother, which I don't have much on her mother's mother, but her mother's grandmother lived in downtown near an apothecary, and she was the holistic or the witch doctor, I guess is what they called her, that also read tea leaves and tarot cards. And then my grandfather's side, his mother, she was known, the people that knew her, I didn't know either one of my great grandmothers, but the people that knew her will often tell me they wondered if she was a fortune teller, if she was something, because she dressed like a gypsy. Okay. She was known for the bandanas on her head. She was known for the big hoop earrings. I think the bulk of the psychic abilities came from her. And I know from her mother that was from Italy, but I know very little as far back as that era. Okay. So yeah, it did run in my family. It was on my mother's side. Okay. Um, when did I know? Okay, I think my relatives knew before I knew. Okay, very young age, there were certain things that both my mom and dad said that they could refer back to. Grew up in my grandmother's home that was built prior to the Civil War, and our family cemetery was in the yard. And I was always terrified of that cemetery. And looking back now, what scared me about it? I mean, there was nothing on TV in that era that would have ever scared me of a cemetery or anything like that. And I really think it was just the energies of it. It never seemed to bother me too much during the day, but I would not walk past it at night alone. And my aunt lived on the other side. So someone had to walk me to and from her house. Um, Later in life, when I moved into my grandmother's, I moved upstairs, and the bedroom across the hall had the perfect view of that cemetery. And twice I tried covering the window, and my grandma would come up and uncover that window. So she didn't like the windows covered, but I just stayed away from that side of the house because of the view. Okay. Um, I did also see my first ghost in that house. That's another story for another day. That was like at age thinking 15, 14, 15, somewhere in there. But moving on to the actual psychic abilities, I can't seem to track anything on my father's side in that era. More of the paranormal stuff would have come from the home place, and the stories, the ghost stories from his side, but the psychic stuff coming from my mother's side. Now, from my parents, what I'm told, now my grandfather worked at a local funeral home. Okay. And he took me to work with him a couple of different times. Must have been on a Saturday, I'm thinking, or something. But he took me to work with him a couple of different times. And the only time he took me inside of the funeral home, he caught me inside of one of the visitation rooms. And, and he was like, it was a closed casket, so he was okay with that. But they had the man's photo setting up on it. And what impressed him was I knew how this man died. No one had spoke of it, but I knew everything about it. And I remember him going back and telling my grandmother and my mom and dad and all that how I knew. And I remember mom and dad talking about there were some things that I seemed to know that I shouldn't know. Bottom line, it was the last time he ever took me to work. I think that was on my grandmother's demand, but it was little things over the years. Later on for me, when did I know? It's not the fact that I knew, it's not the fact that I had even known about a psychic, fortune teller, or anything else. It was the fact that I felt different. I knew something was different about me. And we always had a large group at the dinner table. Okay. Um, aunts, uncles, whoever stopped by, my dad, my stepmom, my stepbrother. I mean, it was just always a good gathering for dinner. And it got to be a game that I could be upstairs and actually tell you what they were wearing and what the topic of conversation would be. And yeah, it was kind of cool at first. And then it gets kind of scary real when you just there's just some things you just knew. Okay. And when you talk to your friends about it and you find out, no, that's indeed not normal. They don't do the same thing. They don't know stuff like that. And you start getting the visions of things playing out. Sometimes in your dreams, your premonitions, things coming to pass, something that you dreamed about and a couple of weeks later that actually comes to pass. Or I dream about this person that I've never met, and then later on I meet this actual person that was in my dream. And so as a young teenager, I started discussing this with my friends who said no, that they never had these experiences. And it just went on. And I guess somehow or another, there was an internal struggle with me, if that makes sense, with everybody telling me it's not normal. Yeah. And then, of course, having that conversation with my dad and him really going off about how not normal it is. And, I also have a grandmother there that is very deep into the church, the Sunday school teacher, and just convinced that I'm headed straight to hell. So these things did not help either. So you kind of suppress it, or you try to suppress it. This is something I'm often asked. Can you turn your gift on and off? Not really, to a certain extent, but not really. So when you try to suppress it, it still continues to go on. You just try your best to ignore it. Later in life, I lost a friend, was my best friend actually. And that best friend paid a visit to me. And that visit happened when I was awake. It didn't happen in a dream. It happened while I was awake. And it shook me to the core. And, this led into another whole spiral of things with me and my family. It was a very difficult time. So I'm glad to see things are out in the open and televised now, that parents are more receptive when they say their children is going through something. I've done a couple of investigations where I'm proud to say that the parents have brought me in to see if I could verify anything that was going on versus having them medicated, because back then they didn't medicate children. And I wonder today how many people are walking around medicated that indeed had the ability. Now, some things I experienced at this time when I'm trying to suppress it and I'm trying to make everything go away was headaches, constant headaches. Later in life, they intensified to migraines, the emergency run migraines. So it was in a way working on my health. And I have a cousin that had me, took me for a psychic reading to a psychic that she knew, who told me that I had abilities. This wasn't the first time I heard this. Okay. But she was very adamant, and she directly asked me about my headaches. And I was just really impressed with that. Okay. She tuned in. She knew what was going on with me. And she told me, she says, when you recognize and embrace this, she said, your headaches will go away. I didn't listen. I did not listen. I was treated for headaches for several years to come. It was later on, it was the same cousin that bought me my first tarot deck. Totally fascinated, wasted a lot of time with books Okay. And this is something, if you are interested in my tarot card workshop, is something we discuss as the books of the tarot. They were very confusing to me. Okay. And then I had another psychic who told me, she was out of state, who told me if I wanted to work those cards, to throw the books away, get away from the books. She says, start reading by what you see in those cards. She says, and once you start reading what you see in those cards, you're going to see further. Well, what she meant by seeing further, and I was not aware of at that time, was that the visions got more intense and came more often. Okay. But then I didn't seem to have any control. Like they would just randomly go off. And it was like amazing and scary and just all sorts of things all at one time. I started reading up on how you would control that. And there was really no clear-cut answer. Okay. So it was something I had to work with. But I tell you one thing, when I embraced that I could fluently read cards and I could fluently get answers by visions and audio without any help of cards, not only was it life altering, I came off my headache medication that month. Years of being treated, years of specialists. Okay. It made that big of an impact. And it went right back to what that woman had told me. When you embrace your abilities, your headaches will stop. So yeah, it was a really, really big change there. I am a clairvoyant, which means I do have the clear visions. Now, what is it like when I give you a reading? Depends. You ask the question, I'm just the messenger. Sometimes it comes off in still frame images. Sometimes it's in a short video. Sometimes I get an audible answer. Okay. I'm known for doing the YouTube videos. I will tell you if we're going to an extended or not. Generally, something is spoke to me that says keep going. Okay. That means there's more messages to come out, or there's something there that I'm not picking up on. I don't need tarot cards to do a reading. I do them obviously on video because it gives you a visual to see. You contact me for a reading. I don't use tarot. Okay. Only upon request. It is the name of the podcast is When Spirit Speaks. And I can tell you this, sometimes it'll stop you in your tracks. Still does today, still amazes me. I could be in there making the bed and get a message just out the blue that I didn't ask for. It takes your breath away. It does. In a good way, but it takes your breath away. And you always listen. Don't ever second guess yourself. Okay. There's also just the gift of knowing and your intuition, and you need to learn to trust that. Okay. And if you're working on brushing up your psychic abilities, which I will be doing a show on how to address your psychic abilities, play with it. Test yourself. Test yourself. I tested myself often. The worst read out there is the reading for yourself. How you can read for yourself, how you can't read for yourself, how you don't trust what you're being told. The other thing is time frames. Time frames are often hard to read. And when you ask me when, I am a when person. Okay. I have very little patience. So when you tell me something's going to happen, I want to know when. I'm often shown a calendar. Now that calendar changes. Okay. So if you ask me about something specific and I'm honing in and I might see that 3 to 4 dates are fuzzy, then that's the dates that we're looking at. Okay. It might show me a week that jumps out bolder than the other weeks. It will certainly give me a month, like the calendar will flip to the month of August. August is going to be significant when this takes place. Sometimes I'm shown the calendar, a lot of times without asking. There's also a day calendar. Okay. So like the days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it might show me a specific day of the week. So yeah, that's how I read time frames, is by the calendar. Very seldom am I given names or am I given an initial. And usually when I get those are audible. They are spoken to me. Okay. There are certain things that I don't know, and it's like an unspoken rule of you're not supposed to know. Okay. Uh, the time of your death, the time of my death, the time of anyone's death. No, I don't know. And very rarely am I shown anything like that. Okay. It's something we're not supposed to know. Lotto numbers. Okay. Obviously, if I knew the lotto numbers, I would play them. Okay. I wouldn't be sitting here doing a podcast. I would not be doing readings today or anything else. I would be rich from the lottery. Well, don't you think Spirit knows that? My job is being a messenger, not for me to retire. So I think that's why we're not shown certain things. But there are some things that are just not shown to us. And those are the most significant ones that I can think of. When it comes to reading for the other side, those that have passed or whatever, honestly, this is more my daughter's strength than it is mine. It can be done. It's called lifting the veil. And there's like this actual veil there that looks like a wedding veil that you lift. And it's who's standing on the other side of the veil. Now, I'm not speaking about all that do the work on the other side, the mediums and all, because everybody's abilities are different. Okay. I'm speaking for what it's like for myself. When you lift the veil, let's say you're trying to contact, I don't know, Uncle Bob. Okay. When I lift the veil, there might be 3 or 4 people standing there, and he's not one of them. I could lift the veil and there be no one there. I could lift the veil, there be someone else there. I can only ask for, and see what I get. If I get nothing, it's not meant to be. It's not that it's not my abilities. It's not meant to be. One thing that you'll find in the Bible is against mediums. Okay. And so when you lift that veil, you ask to lift the veil. Your answer to me is if there's anyone there ready to speak or not. That's your answer. Sometimes messages are delivered to me from that other person. But let me tell you what people don't care about when you're seeking a mediumship reading and you're seeking to connect with the other side. They don't care about their will. They don't care that someone says something to you. All that was left behind. Nothing materialistic, nothing of their wishes that they wanted. Yes, and I know I get this all the time. This is not what he wanted. This is not what she wanted. They don't care when they're there. None of that matters. Okay. It is that eternal love and happiness. They care about your well-being. That's it. That's it. So a lot of times when you're asking to connect with the other side, I want you to think about what you're asking. And because I'm going to discuss that with you before I even attempt it, of what they do care about and what they don't care about. And what that other side looks like is just, words can't describe it. Words cannot describe it. There is a lot of truth to the stories of the other side. There's some things I cannot say are truth because there again, I have not had that personal experience. Okay. But that's how the medium readings work. And I don't do them in public. Okay. I know you've got a lot of mediums that go out there and will say, there's such and such beside you. I don't do them in public. They're very emotional. Its spirit is definitely going to give me something from that individual that's going to nail you hard to know that you have the right person. And I see no need to upset anybody in public that way to prove that what my abilities were or whatnot. So that's just my personal preference. I do not do them in public. I will send you to my website to book a reading on that aspect. Okay. For those that are looking at strengthening your psychic abilities, this is something I love working with. I do offer a course on the psychic abilities and would love to work with you on that. But for me personally, can you turn it on and off? No, I can't. I can't. I can walk away from it. I can end my day. I am a Reiki master for the simple fact of When you do several readings a day, you want to clear your own energy. You want to reground and center yourself, kind of clear away the ick from the day. I don't want to go to bed with everybody's problems on me. So yeah, learning to clear your energy is going to be important. I do that more often than not. Um, do I see things that are disturbing? Absolutely. Absolutely. More than what you realize, more than what you would ever realize. I see a lot of things that are disturbing that I never asked to see. I have some things that I have seen that I still wonder why I was shown that or who that person was. And if I don't know what it's about, I know it's coming around at a later date. Um, I get picked on a lot by my friends, like, did you see this coming? Like if we have dinner reservations and the reservations are screwed up, did you see this coming? No, I didn't. Because I should not have to look at everything through the eyes of a psychic. You like to take your time off work. I like to take my time off work. Okay. But the same turn, if we're out to dinner and I'm at dinner with a friend and I see her going to the ER with her son and I know everything's fine, but she's in panic mode, I will speak up and say something about it's coming. So she will know when it happens not to panic over it. I knew this was coming. It's going to be something mild. It might be a fever she couldn't break or something like that. Yeah, I will speak up about it. But I don't sit back and just read people. And I have so many people I think that get nervous around me because they think I'm sitting back and reading them. And I don't. I don't. I lost that fascination as a teenager. It is wonderful when you can take a hobby and make it your full-time profession. Okay. But at the same turn, it still becomes your profession, even though I love what I do. It's not so much as my hobby anymore, if that makes sense. Like my clients aren't aware of this, but my friends are. I'm not much for talking on the phone because that's my job. 90% of my readings are done on the phone. So I'm not one to sit around and have a long conversation on a phone. Every now and then, yes, but no, nothing like it used to be, when we used to do nothing but talk on the phone. Nothing like that anymore. And they get it. They get it because it is my job. Energy is energy. Whether you're coming through on a computer, on a chat, whether you are coming through on an email, whether you're right there in front of me, energy is energy. Okay. So it's going to be read one way or the other. There is no psychic that is right or wrong. I think only you can decipher that. You do need to know their abilities as to whether they're going to be an empath and pick up on your feelings, or if they are an actual clairvoyant that can see what is to come. For me, I do enjoy what I do. I do. I mean, the good outweighs the bad. That's what you look at in any profession. And with the visions, what I feel, how it makes me feel, how it leaves me at the end of the day, I do enjoy what I do because I help so many in ways that people can't get the help or the answers to what they seek. And it's more than love life. I mean, I'll be honest with you, 90% of my readings are on the love life. Okay. People don't care if they are evicted, if they have a job, if they have food on the table, they care about love. Number one, first and foremost. Okay. But I have legitimate clients with legitimate concerns, properties on the market, things of this nature. Where are they headed? Are they going back to college? Things like that. They've got legitimate concerns, and I enjoy giving them the guidance of what's to come, how I see things. And the purpose of a psychic reading is so that maybe if you're not happy with the outcome that I see, possibly you can change that. If it's fated, you can't. It's life lessons. Life lessons makes you who you are, makes me who I am. So some things you just have to go through, but at least you know it's to come. But like I said, there's other things that we just don't get. We don't get death. We don't get the lotto numbers. Timing is a difficult thing. You're either going to get it or you're not. Sometimes there's no answer. If you're asking a yes or no question, spirit doesn't speak, spirit shows you nothing, you're not meant to know right then. You're just not meant to know right then. It's a timing thing. Now you have to remember, it's not on my time, it's not on your time. This is on spirit's time. It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen that you will ask something and I'm not shown. So, I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes when you ask me about your aurora, or you're asking me specifically about is there a loved one near you, it comes off to me like a camera flash. It's like a quick image, very split image of the speed of a camera flash. And so I'm going to give you the best description I can of that person, of what I saw in that moment of time. Okay. Now that camera flash, it's funny I referenced that because we have picked up this random camera flash on paranormal investigations. But if you want to see what I'm talking about there, have someone flash a picture, an actual photo of you, and then describe that person, because that's what it looks like when you ask me, is my loved one around, or who is around me? I get that quick photo. And I'll be able to tell you what that photo looks like. And sometimes it's going to resonate. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it'll show me what era that photo is from. Okay. Sometimes it does not. And sometimes I actually see a bloodline. So if I see like of this vein that pops up, it's a relative. It is definitely a relative because that's showing me a bloodline. But these are some of the things that I experience. How it feels. To me, it's always peaceful because you're working with spirit. Even when you're shown something that is horrific, there is still a peace about that from the source it comes from. And I don't know if it's whether, I think it's more or less to reassure me as the messenger, to reassure that person that everything is okay, or that that event is supposed to take place. But it is always very peaceful. It's another reason why I do love my job. It's, how does it feel to be able to do that? What that process is, and these are the things that go off. You've got the calendar, you've got images, you've got the camera flash, you have colors. Sometimes just colors come through. You have the audible voices, and very seldom do I ever ask something twice unless I didn't hear them. Okay. It's kind of like a volume thing. It doesn't mean they're close or they're near. I don't know if it's my hearing or whatever, but if I didn't hear them, I will ask them to repeat it, and they will. I view things a lot differently than most because of this. And I think some people mistake me for not being a very caring person when that's not the case. It's when you work with this daily and this is what you do, you know what you need to apply your energy to and what you don't need to. So I stress a little differently than most people. And I pride myself on that, honestly. I know it's a really strange to a lot of people, but I think it's something that you could pride yourself on, is picking and choosing where your energy goes. And that is something I have certainly learned over the course of time, you know. But that's kind of how the process works. It's a little bit on the history of how I got to be where I was. So, yeah, I could say I knew something was different in my teen years. I can say I was told directly I had an ability, late teens, early 20s, but I was probably in my mid to late 20s before I just embraced it, that this is what it is and I will learn to work with it. And it's a very comforting feeling when you realize you're not crazy. It's just going up and everybody telling you that you're crazy or they don't have these experiences, is what is mind boggling to me. And that comes into play with, life experiences, and you have to go through what you did. I'm very blessed with my granddaughter, who we also find is very gifted. Both sides of the family are very open to hearing what she has to say. And that fills my heart with joy because I don't want her to grow up the way I did, where you feel that something's off or that you feel that things are strange. And so it took me a little while in life to realize that it's okay and I don't have to feel strange. And it is perfectly normal for one with abilities and more than one ability. So if you know anyone or if you have any little ones that are reporting things, I do ask that you take that seriously and you listen to what they have to say. And even in adults, when adults report premonitions in a dream, or if they report that they heard a voice or, they saw something, don't discredit it right away. Don't discredit it. I do feel strongly that most have psychic abilities. And it takes time to develop it. It takes time to embrace it. It takes time to admit it. Okay. It takes time to admit that you have an ability. It takes time to accept that you have an ability. And, the question of why and why you will linger there as well. And I think all of this is very normal. But you need to show respect for someone that says anything like that may be deemed crazy to you because you've never had that personal experience. The same way with the paranormal. A paranormal investigation generally opens up with, I am not crazy. I have a college degree, blah, 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 but this happened or I saw this. It's the same thing. Same concept with psychic abilities. So that's what I have for you guys today. Thank you for your support on this podcast. I greatly appreciate it. Love hearing your feedback. There again, my contact information is JackieTomlin.com. You'll find all my contacts there, which from my phone number on to email, podcast links, YouTube links, everything you need is right there. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye.